All right, the next question was, if a user came from a backlink to our site that was just created, does Google index the backlink? Well, I don't know if Google indexed the backlink, but from somebody visiting it, but it is a signal nonetheless. And depending on where that user or visitor came from, right? If they were from an Android device or from a Chrome browser on a desktop or a laptop, or if the site that they came, the link was on, that they clicked through, had analytics on it, you know, all of the Google knows that that click came from that link, right? So the visitor came from that referring URL. Whether Google decides to index that page that had that referring URL on it or not is up to Google. That just because somebody clicked through that referring URL doesn't mean that Google's going to index the page. But Google, depending on, like I said, Google will most likely 98% chance knows that that visitor came from that specific URL, from the page that URL was referring URL was posted on. And that's still a good signal nonetheless for both. Well, it can be a good signal, but not only for your own site, but also for the page where that referring URL was on, because that shows activity, right? So activity, relevance, trust and authority. So that's activity. So, but again, it could be a visitor from a completely unrelated, so like a non-relevant link, and that shows activity. But if it's not relevant, is that beneficial or does it cancel it out? You see what I'm saying? So that's why activity, ART, activity, relevance, trust, and authority, is 3 letters in the same acronym because they're all related to each other. So you want to comment on that?
No, you are absolutely right. We have no way of knowing what Google's going to do. Come on. It's Google. We don't know. Now, what's going to happen to that is, like, what link are you talking about? Where is that link? Because if it's a link in some document, some obscure document somewhere, I don't know how likely it is that that's going to index, or how the user even found that backlink. Now, what you can do if you want it indexed is run some ads to that and get some click-throughs. And I guarantee you that Google is looking at that, even if they decide not to index it. That's an absolutely depends what Google does with that backlink. It depends on how relevant it considers that backlink, because if that backlink isn't relevant to everything that you're doing, then Google is just going to disregard that link, right? The distance graph algorithm, it's not even going to take it into account. It could be that the person clicks on it, it's not related, they bounce, and that's not a good signal.
It's a negative
when they don't
signal.
find what they're looking for. And so that link, it's discounted unless it's coming from a very powerful domain to start with, where the relevance gets transferred in another way. Let's just call it that way, so I don't have to go deep into that. But you know, the power of the subdomain, the trust and authority can override relevance, and we've seen it time and time again. That's why we use Google. That's why we went in there in the first place, right? It depends on the backlink. It depends on the website that it's on. Depends on the purpose of the website, and it entirely depends on Google, because even if it's powerful and you're getting all of these positive signals and whatever, Google may decide, just for whatever, not to index that backlink, but that doesn't mean that you don't benefit from it, because Google knows it's there.